Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, today is the second Tuesday of the month, which means it's time for Feelin' Great with Lissa and Nate of Raw Food Romance. And today they're going to make the world's best raw vegan lasagna. Please welcome them back to episode 12. How are you guys? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. We are so excited. We are doing great.
Yes.
And we're really excited for this meal because
we
it's
haven't
time
made
for food.
I don't think we've made the lasagna probably in like maybe a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is going to be really fun, super delicious. We're so excited for dinner.
Well, that is so cool because I remember, do you guys remember Roxanne's restaurant in Larkspur?
Oh no, I don't think we need the.
Oh, you guys, you young people. She was a very talented raw food chef. We went to the same culinary school, Living Life Culinary Arts Institute, and it was like a 4-month wait. She was written up in the LA Times, and that was like the signature dish. And even people that aren't raw lasagna is just so yummy, you know?
It is so good. It is so good. And of course, we have all kinds of nuts and seeds here that we're going to be putting in it. So that adds to the deliciousness of it.
Yum.
What we did was we kind of laid out things already, so something that I always like to showcase is how fast it is to make certain dishes. It doesn't take a lot of time. But as you see, we have all kinds of stuff laid out here, ready to go, stuff for our cheese, stuff for our pesto, and stuff for the marinara. So it should go pretty quick. But if you were doing this, just grabbing stuff out of the fridge, this shouldn't take too long. I'm thinking like maybe around 30 to 40 minutes.
That's not too bad for raw food,
Yeah, exactly. And we're also going to make 2 different kinds. Most raw lasagnas are made with zucchini as the noodle. But I personally really like cucumber as the noodle. So we're going to make both. And the zucchini ones, we're going to actually put into the dehydrator to dehydrate for a couple hours for our dinner lasagna. So it's kind of a bonus way to do the lasagna. So good.
Yeah, having the cucumber is super delicious. And of course, if you're doing the cucumber, you want to eat it right away. It doesn't dehydrate and you don't have the same effect if you dehydrate the cucumber as the noodle. But the zucchini as the noodle, really, it starts to soften up. And it's almost like, I don't know, it doesn't really have the same texture as if it were just raw, right? So it's really a neat effect.
Yeah, so that's gonna be so good.
So good.
I didn't think you could dehydrate cucumbers because aren't they mostly water?
Yeah, we're not going to dehydrate these cucumbers. Nope. Yeah, you could. Actually, I think no, it was a zucchini, the pizza crust that Chris had.
Right. Yeah.
Zucchini, yeah. So we'll make the cucumber one that we can just eat like right now, basically, and then we'll dehydrate the zucchini ones, and we'll have those for dinner tonight. And of course, this is really nice paired up with a really big salad with like a Greek dressing. And all of these recipes can be found in the Dude Food book, which I've got my Dude Food book out here so we can see the recipe. And I want to show off this cool little stand that a friend got us for Christmas. It's just, it's got different angles so you can put your recipe book on it. I love how it folds up. You can fold it up so it'll go right in, your cabinet with all of your other recipe books. But this is really nice if you're making a recipe. Sometimes it's nice just to have the book in front of you if you can get the hard copies of, your favorite recipe books. So I've got this opened up here so we can kind of tell you what the recipe is as we go along. And yeah, let's get going.
Yes. So also in the show notes, the link for the digital version of Dude Food is in there. Code is RAWFOOD40 if you want to get 40% off any of the ebooks. The print versions, however, are on Amazon. Just search Dude Food Nathan Maris and you can get it on Amazon.
Cheers. So what we have here is we've got some cashews that we started soaking this morning for the show. So you want to make sure that you soak your nuts. It definitely helps out. And what Lissa's going to do is she's going to do up the cheese sauce. And the cheese sauce really is good with just the tamper. Sometimes you might need to do the tamping wand. If you have that in your blender, it really helps. And you don't really need a lot of water. So yeah, I'll just pass you the ingredients for the cheese sauce.
So we're starting with 1 cup of cashews that have been soaked for you know, like I would say anywhere between 4 and 8 hours is a good soak time. The longer you soak them, the creamier that your cheese will be. So you want to give it a good time. And then we've got half a cup of pine nuts, which will be delicious.
And I'm just going to squeeze some lemon juice for this as well.
And I'll put 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast in there.
We only need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So this looks to be about, maybe I'll go just a smidge more. There we go. So the lemon
I always get a tummy ache when I eat nooch, Lissa. What can I do?
Oh man.
No, that's a hard one. Nutritional yeast is so unique of a flavor. You can totally leave it out. It's not like, it's kind of an optional ingredient, but it gives it that cheesiness. And unfortunately, there is really not much that can replace it. You could maybe put like more miso in to get that umami-ness to it, but sadly, nothing really replaces nooch.
It's really tricky, but yeah, you don't have to put the nooch in. It'll still be delicious without it.
I've also found a chunk of carrot can be kind of an okay option, or like half of a bell pepper to give it that sharpness.
Yeah.
You could either try one of those two. That could be, it would change, obviously, to change the recipe.
Yeah, you may need to add as much water because you know you're adding something hydrating in there. But I know it's a bummer deal when there is people who can't enjoy some nooch. And nooch, honestly, like every time that I eat nooch, I do have a little wind coming out the south end a bit more so than if I didn't.
But it's technically not raw, right? Because I know that I mean, there are some raw people that wouldn't eat it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So what they do is it's like an active yeast, right? And they have to heat it to stop the yeast from growing so that they can package it and sell it and that kind of thing. So it isn't technically raw. But a lot of raw foodies still use it like we do. It's not super often, like we eat nooch like,
probably,
I don't know, a couple times a month.
Yeah,
maybe
a few times a month, probably.
Sometimes we'll go months without it. Sometimes we'll eat it multiple times a week.
Sometimes I just want to sprinkle some on my salad, so I'll have some on my salad that way. But yeah, most of the time that we use it, it's in a recipe.
Yeah, just to give it that cheesy flavor. But there are a few other ingredients that we use that aren't like legit raw, like smoked paprika, for example, is smoked above the raw temperature. Maple syrup is heated. Coconut aminos are actually heated to stop fermentation, because when coconut aminos first came on the market, I was working at the health food store, and every time we order it, like 8 out of the 12 bottles would be blown up and there would be coconut aminos everywhere. And it was an actual raw product back then. But the company started to have to heat it to stop the fermentation so that they weren't wasting a lot of food and glass.
Right. And even the cashews. Cashews aren't technically raw, even if they are raw in the back package. The process that they've gone through to be in the package is it's a heat process. So
there are a few things, but you know, we are like super high raw.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and I always like to say, if someone's going to eat 70% or more of their calories from raw food, technically they're a raw foodie. I mean,
they're a raw food enthusiast.
A raw food enthusiast. Yeah, and of course the percentage rate of how raw people are, it is interesting because there are people who want to be strictly as close to 100% as they can. And listen, I have found that it's just not as enjoyable or as attainable to be 100% raw. So we're like 95% raw.
Yeah, or some days we are 100%, other days maybe not.
Yeah.
Like it's
today is not 100% raw because we do have the nooch in there, we do have the cashews in there. We're going to use this as smoked paprika. So,
and I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of water to this to get it to blend.
And then just a smidge.
Oh yeah. You can totally leave out the salt.
You can omit the salt. We have like just a pinch of salt in the cheese.
Or you could add miso if you want to, but yeah, like it's totally optional.
Miso would probably be a little bit better of an option because at least it's a living food. But,
so here we go.
So there's the cheese sauce. Okay, and then while she's getting that going, what I'll do is I'll get the stuff ready for the pesto. We're going to need a food processor.
I'll ask your question, Marilyn, as soon as they stop blending. And you're watching from France. Bonsoir. It's late there, huh? Looking at myself.
Yeah.
That's a nice thick cheese.
Look at that cheese.
Lissa, Marilyn would like to know, could she use almonds or walnuts for the cheese?
Yes, almonds would probably be the best option. Because it would end up being more like a ricotta style, like a chunky
Right.
kind of a ricotta. Almond would be a really great option. I would recommend soaking the almonds though for about 8 hours, because they're a bigger, harder nut. But yeah, almond would be excellent choice.
Yeah, almond would be a good choice. Okay, so for the pesto, we've got about 3 cups of basil, which this was probably the most intensive part of today's prep, was just getting the basil leaves off of the stem. And I did keep a couple out. It's always nice to have a couple out that we can kind of put on top as decoration, just some little ones. So 3 cups of basil we're going to toss in there. And then we've got a tablespoon of miso we'll also stick in there.
Ooh, this cheese smells so good.
So good. And then we're also putting 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast in the pesto as well. But again, you can omit that. You don't have to put that in there. Now, we're not going to be blending this up for too long of a time. So I'm going to put some oregano in right now. But if you are using a high-speed blender and you want to add something like oregano, it's best to do that after the stuff is all blended up and then just pulse in the oregano, because if you go too long, sometimes it can turn a real like bitter taste. Then we've also got 3 cloves of garlic we're putting in here. And I believe this is it's a third cup of pine nuts. Now, of course, a pesto, I mean, really, the pine nuts and the hemp seed, we also have hemp seed here, 2 tablespoons. It makes kind of a nice texture for the pesto, but you know, if you want to use almonds or maybe even want to use walnuts or something like that would be fine too. I would just suggest to soak those before you do it. So now that we have all of our ingredients in for the pesto, we're just going to blend this up. And actually what I need just a little bit of water, just a smidge. So we're going to do 2 teaspoons of water. Actually, I'm going to go 3 teaspoons. And then we'll just blend this pesto up here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll have Lissa bring the camera over, and then you can kind of see what this looks like.
All right.
Yeah, we might be able to.
Coming over here. Woohoo!
Is that?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. We're on the cord. All right. So now that we have all the goodies in there, I'm going to put the top on and just blend this up. And look at that. Well, what I'll do is I'll just take and kind of knock it off the walls here real quick, and we'll give one more go. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Does everyone love our messy garlic solution?
There we go. Pesto is done.
All right. See how fast that was?
That's really quick.
Woo! Sorry for the jiggling. There we go.
Now what we could do is we can just leave this in the food processor and scrape it out as we go. I just wanted to put that blade in the sink. I got a bowl of water in the sink. One cool thing with raw food, and I can't iterate this enough, is especially when you're doing stuff with no oil, is you don't really need a real intense dishwashing procedure. You can just pretty much use a rag with a little bit of soap, mild dish soap, and just rinse stuff off. So, but if you do it right away, get stuff rinsed right away, it's really nice because then you don't have to soak it. It doesn't crust on there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Ooh, and it smells amazing. I love pesto so much.
This is gonna be so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then for our third part of the lasagna is the marinara. So for the marinara, we're going to use our other blender jug. And we're gonna start with 5 pitted Medjool dates. Now, if you're using like the little deglet dates or smaller dates, you might need to add a couple extra because the Medjools are pretty big. So if you're using the smaller dates, maybe put 8 dates in there. It'll be really helpful for that. And then we've got 1 bell pepper. This is massive bell pepper. I think we might only do half.
I don't know, we might be able to do it all.
It's gonna be a lot of marinara.
We want a lot of marinara. The marinara, you want definitely like nice big layers of marinara. The cheese and the pesto, you can go nice and thin. Oh, so good though. That is a big one.
It is a big one.
And while she does that up, what I'll do is I'll peel the cucumber. We'll get that ready. This is going to be for the lasagna noodle. And what we really like to do as much as we can. If we can't get the English cucumber, we can only get conventional. We'll get conventional. But I really like the English cucumber because they're wrapped in the plastic, and of course it's extra plastic, and that's kind of a bummer. But what's cool is there's no wax on these cucumbers. So if I get a conventional cucumber, if we're doing conventional cucumbers, what we do is we actually peel the cucumber. And you know, there's a lot of nutrients in the actual skin of the cucumber. So if you can get English cucumbers, they're the best.
Yes. And I've got 1/2 cup of sun-dried tomatoes that's going in there next, along with, the recipe calls for 1 Roma tomato, but you could probably do 2 like little Camparis or other kinds of, it's about, I think it's 50 grams is a usual Roma, but we're gonna put 2 Camparis in there.
And they're so good.
We got 2 cloves of garlic. You can always add more if you want to. And then we've got 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. There we go. And 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You could add a little more apple cider vinegar if you want to. This helps to balance out the flavor in the marinara when it's raw. There we go. And that's that. It's a really super simple, easy recipe. Now, if you want it to be warm, you would blend this up for 2 minutes. And if you want, you could also, once you've blended it up and it's nice and warm, you could add maybe 5 or 10 leaves of basil to it to give it a little bit more of an authentic flavor, which we could
Let's
do.
do that.
Okay, I'm gonna grab some.
I love that. I wanted to save some of the basil for some dessert because one thing that we really like to do is we like to make a banana ice cream with blueberries and basil. It's so good.
So good. Yeah, blueberries and basil is probably one of my most favorite combinations.
Blueberry and basil, like what do you do with it? Make like an ice cream? And speaking of nice cream, how's your Ninja Creamy going, Nate?
Oh my gosh, I'm deep in it right now. I ordered more containers.
Oh, nice.
So we can make more at the same time. So yeah, it's coming along and I'm really excited for it. Of course, you know, I wish that it was done already. But
look at this, we've got the nice creamy.
Yeah, so now we've got 6 of those containers.
Cool.
It's going to make it nice, and we're actually starting to put these recipes together.
Yeah, it's going to be so good.
Okay, so you're doing that there. What I'll do is I'll do the zucchini as well. So I did the, I'm going to grab this peeler here.
Right.
It doesn't have the ridges. So we did the cucumber. The cucumber, they're just thin. We're just using the peeler for these. And zucchini is the same way. Just kind of mandolin these up.
All right, and I'm gonna add 1 cup of water to this because dates and tomatoes, the sun-dried tomatoes kind of soak up a lot of the water during the blending process because as the fibers are exposed, you know, they suck up all the water. So you might need to add a little extra water than 1 cup, but it really depends on how thick you want it, how long you blend it, how your blender's working. So we'll start with 1 cup of water and then we will add water if we need to. Once it's blended, I'll add the basil and pulse the basil in so we get that nice.
And another thing that we're doing here is we've got the BioChef container, so it's going to be vacuum blended, which really makes a huge difference in the marinara not being you know, kind of frothy. Now, if you don't have a vacuum blender, it's not a big deal. still works fine. But if you can get your hands on a vacuum blender, they are amazing. And your
I know, it's like next level blending stuff with
your smoothies,
flavors are deeper, colors are deeper, there's more nutrition because
More
there's less
nutrition.
oxidation.
and you can actually seal the jar with a vacuum lid. Oh, and we got this really cool tool. Lissa just got this for me for Christmas. This is a vacuum sealer. And what's so cool is you can actually, there's two parts. This is for the small lids, and you can just take this off, and there's for the big lids. So you don't need a special lid. You can just use a regular standard metal lid, and then just pop this on. This is rechargeable, and vacuum seal your jars, which is so cool. So say if you make some smoothies or a juice, you can vacuum seal it, put that smoothie in the fridge, and it'll taste good tomorrow. Or even better, if you're making salad dressings, or maybe you want to seal up the pesto in a jar under vacuum, the less air that is going to be in contact with your stuff, the better.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna blend.
You guys are so cute. If you guys have any questions, just drop it in the chat.
All right, so as you can see, it's like it was getting really thick, which is what you want. You want to have a nice thick marinara. So check this out.
Oh, it's so good.
Ooh, how red and delicious that is. So I'm gonna add the fresh basil to it, and I'll just pulse the basil in to the dressing.
Oh, you know, one thing I forgot to put into
Might add a
that
little extra
pesto
water too.
was the black pepper.
Ooh.
We'll just crack some right on top here.
And I'm not re-vacuuming this because I'm just gonna blend it for about 2 seconds or so. That's it, that's all.
Very good.
This marinara. I mean, it all smells so good. Every time we make something, we're like, this is our favorite.
I know. Really.
That's when you know you love your food, when everything you make is your favorite thing.
No, I
Do
wanted
you-
to say that about this.
Do you ever make it in advance and like freeze it, the marinara, just so you have it?
We haven't done that, and I think the reason being is because it would be harder to, like, we'd have to thaw it and then reblend it. I'm not sure. I bet you could.
Yeah, I bet you probably could. There is a little water in there, so it might kind of crystallize a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that is one way to go about it, because, you know, it does save you some extra steps. I don't know, like, I almost feel like you could probably make it faster than it would take to thaw it and get it ready.
Right. Look at this marinara that we have here. It's got a little bit of basil in there, and you could also add other things to it. Like if you wanted to put oregano, you could. If you wanted to add a jalapeno to there to make it a spicy marinara, you could do that as well. You could also marinate mushrooms, like you could thinly slice mushrooms, marinate them in like lemon juice, grated garlic, and you could put them in there. Yeah.
And the dude food right there next to it has chunky. See the chunky mixture?
Oh yes, the chunky mixture. You could totally add the chunky. Yeah. And if you have leftover, because we'll have leftover after making these, maybe, we'll see. But you could always use it on a zucchini noodle dish the next day, or you could put it inside a wrap and have a pizza wrap.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting some of this together. The cucumber noodle I'm thinking I can have Lissa, she can do up a cucumber noodle while I do a zucchini noodle. And we can kind of put two of these together at the same time.
Yes.
And we can bite into one like right now.
Okay,
So
so
here's-
let's get some other spoons here.
Perfect, yeah. And then
There
here's
you
your
go.
cucumbers.
Okay.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mhm. So the way that I like to do this is I like to start with the noodle on the bottom. And they're so thin, these slices, you could actually double up some of the slices if you like.
Here, let's go in close for Nate here.
Okay. Yeah, and as you can see, look at how thin they are. They're almost kind of transparent. So I'm going to actually, I bought extra zucchinis just for this fact because I really kind of like it. I like having it kind of thick with noodle. So there we go. There's our first layer. So first layer, what we can do is we can take a little bit of pesto and just kind of give it a thin sheen over this bottom here. And the pesto kind of softens up because of the moisture of the zucchini. And this is such powerful flavor. You don't need a lot. So a real thin layer is perfect. And we're going to, of course, make many layers. So there we go. Maybe we'll get just a smidge more here. There. All right, so then the second layer, we're going to go with some more noodles. This noodle layer, I'm going to just do the one layer of noodles. Well, hello, boy. Jai wants to hang out too.
Do your cats like raw vegan food?
They love some things like honeydew.
Yeah, honeydew melon, they go crazy for the juice at the bottom of the melon.
Raja loves persimmons. Like he will climb trying to get the persimmons. So after we get the we get as much out of the persimmon as we can, we'll give him the rest, and he just goes to town on it.
It's so cute.
So there's our layer of cheese, just thin layers because we want multiple layers here. And as you can see, our zucchinis here are kind of getting thinner because, when you're peeling them, sometimes they depending on where you're at on the zucchini, can be kind of thin. And I also did kind of some thinner layers here. Perfect. Now what we'll do is we'll go with some of our sauce. And of course, the sauce is amazing, and you can kind of go thicker with the sauce. We made a little extra sauce. Beautiful.
Got a few questions for you from it's about the do you have a link for the vacuum jar sealer on your Amazon storefront?
I think I do in mine.
I don't have it on mine yet. No, so yeah.
We'll add it. We'll add it. So yeah, definitely go there. It would be under the kitchen tools section. I believe it's in my store, but we'll have to add it to Nate's so that it's in there. But you can always send Nate a direct message.
Sure, and I can
on
just,
Instagram, and
I can send you the link directly. Now, some of you might know some better ways, better ways to spread this. I just use the spatula.
I think if we mixed lemon juice in it, it might
Yeah.
be more watery. So
Kinda
what we're gonna
thinner.
do, we're gonna add some lemon juice.
That's a great idea because we actually have a little bit extra here.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that would be perfect.
Perfect.
And then we'll mix it up so it's a little bit thinner and easier to spread.
Yeah, because it is a really thick batch.
Eliana wants to know, Eliana is saying that you gave her the best advice on how to clear acne face, that you're an angel, Lissa.
Oh, very cool.
And can you tell us what the advice is? I'm guessing maybe it has something to do with not eating so much overt fats or oils.
Yes, that's probably that's probably it. I would like to know what she did specifically. But high hydration, low fat, high raw, or all raw. I mean, that's what worked for me. And also gut microbiome growth. Like the high amount of different fibers that I was eating in my diet, like greens galore, sprouts, and of course fruit and everything. I was eating a lot of those fibers. So in turn, that healed my gut microbiome, and your skin health is directly related to your gut health as well. So it would be interesting to hear what she says.
Yeah.
And there's a question, how often do you eat cooked food?
You know, I'm the only one that actually eats any cooked food. Lissa doesn't eat any cooked food. And when I do cooked food, I normally do steamed carrots and broccoli. And that might be like once a month or so, sometimes maybe twice a month, but that's it.
Yeah, I haven't had any, I don't really, like, it's not something that I want. So I eat what I want, and I want the raw, so that's
Yeah.
that's the beauty. Like, we eat what we want.
Yeah, and I love steamed broccoli. I didn't have any cooked foods for the first 6.5 years, and just this last year, I started to incorporate some of that steamed broccoli, and it was just because I just really missed it. And you know, so it is really nice to have. And of course, another cool thing I like to do is actually cut up some raw broccoli to put on the steamed broccoli, like chop up the raw broccoli real fine. So sprinkle on some raw broccoli onto the steamed broccoli. But man, it is so good. I just love some steamed broccoli. And that's another thing that I'll put the nooch on, actually. I'll put a little nutritional yeast on that steamed broccoli.
There's a question, can you explain high raw and other common variations?
So honestly, like, the whole label thing is interesting to us. Like, high raw can mean as much raw as you want, and like the whole percentage thing, like one person is going to say 90% or higher is high raw, and another person is going to say 60% or higher is high raw, or you know, like, so it's really what works for you. Where do you want to go? But high raw just means predominantly everything you eat is raw, and you might have like a little bit of cooked things here or there, maybe throughout the month, maybe during the day. Like, it really is so different depending on who you ask.
Yeah, and I mean, some people will have like some steamed potato on their salads, say, or even some beans. Like, I've seen people put some garbanzo beans or black beans on their salad, and hey, at least they're eating a big, huge salad. So, I mean, it's interesting because, yeah, we can really get stuck up on these labels, and then that can kind of mess us up too. Maybe we're not eating enough because we want to stay 100% raw or super, super high raw, and then we're hungry, but we don't want to eat anything cooked, like some potatoes or some beans or something, or some oatmeal or something, and maybe we're, you know, under eating because of the fact that we're trying to stay. I'm saying we as in people, not, you know, Lissa and I. But
it's so important if you're choosing to eat all raw or mostly raw, you have to eat. I mean, it's same with vegan too. Like, you have to eat food,
well,
otherwise your body's going to start eating itself.
And it's really the same with any diet.
Yeah, any diet.
I mean, if you're eating junk food but you're not eating enough, you're still not eating enough. Yeah, it definitely, what's so cool with raw food, and I think the reason that both Liz and I are so enthusiastic about raw foods is just because you feel so good. And then of course making stuff is really fun. But like I said, for people who want to incorporate more raw into their life, that's just, I mean, you can't go wrong. And it's not like it's all or nothing. This is bad, that's good.
Or prerequisites, like you don't have to do certain things to eat more raw food. Like, you can just eat raw food.
Just eat raw food.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, just have fun.
More.
Have fun with it.
And you can add as many layers to this as you want.
I think I might stop after this layer. This is so good. I want to dig into this right now. So yeah, Lissa and I both don't really eat dishes that are this involving all the time. You know, a lot of times what we're having big, huge salads, smoothies, and
now the wraps.
And then, yeah, the wraps, tacos. We have tacos quite frequently now too. But yeah, like I said, we haven't made this in like a year. And every time that we do, I'm like, why are we not making this? Everything that we make, though, that is a little out of the ordinary, I'm like, why are we making this more?
Right.
Like we were talking about doing some sushi again, some nori wraps. And, same thing. You make them and you're like, oh, we need to have this once a week. And of course, it'd be so nice if we had someone preparing it for us because, we're just like everybody else. We don't always want to be in the kitchen making food for ourselves.
Right.
So Jennifer says she finds it very challenging to be raw in the winter, especially if you live in a cold climate. Do you have any advice?
I sure do.
Lissa does.
So my first 5 winters were in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where it regularly gets to be -40, -30, and it's cold. It snows like 7 months out of the year. We don't get the greatest produce. But my top tips for raw in the winter, obviously, number 1 is your why. Why do you want to eat this way? So you really have to ask yourself every single day, why do I want to choose raw food? Why am I doing this? What about it is there? The second tip, and it's probably the most important tip, is to eat enough calories. Because if you are not eating enough, your metabolism down regulates. And because there's so many people who I encounter and I coach who are eating like 800 to 1200 calories a day, and they're severely under eating, and they get cold because their metabolism slows down. So eating enough is critical for maintaining higher body temperature, maintaining a healthy metabolism.
And unless you're actually tracking it, like what you're eating, which takes, you really have to be mindful every single time you get, you're eating something, type it into Chronometer or something like Chronometer, and you can actually see what you are eating, because some individuals are like, I eat so much food. And then when we actually dig into like exactly what they're eating, we're like, wow, you're only hitting 1600 calories because what you're eating, there's not a lot of, maybe they're not eating a lot of fat or they're not eating a lot of fruit, maybe. So man, it is so important to track what you're actually eating so you really have a good idea. And after, a week or 2 of tracking, you could pretty much eyeball stuff. You're like, oh, I had 3 bananas, that's 300 calories. And you can start adding some stuff up because depending on your height, and your weight,
activity level.
your activity level, your caloric intake's gonna, vary. But man, that's the part I feel like that's the part that really messes people up when they go raw, especially, or if they go plant-based and they're excluding processed foods and animal foods, is not eating enough. And then of course there's people with, eating disordered eating patterns that are eating junk food and they don't eat enough, some of them, and it really is, but yeah, like Lissa says, that's the biggest thing, to keep yourself warm. She was in Canada. It's freezing cold in Canada for like 9 months out of the year, and she just kept
one more layer of cucumber,
maybe here, this one.
Okay, I'll just do one more. But yeah, so the other tips that I have is, so number 1, eat enough. Number 2, use the blender. Like if you blend a soup for 2 minutes on high, it warms it up. Number 3 is to not eat everything right out of the fridge or freezer. That's like making cold smoothies or eating cold salads. Like when I was in Canada, I would take my food out and I'd just leave it on the counter. So it would come to room temperature and I would have a room temperature salad. So I wasn't eating anything hot, but I also wasn't eating anything cold for the most part. I'd have still like nice cream and smoothies and stuff. But what I found is with smoothies specifically, if you blend frozen fruit, the smoothie is cold in the entire body. But if you blend fresh fruit and you add ice cubes to it, then it's just cold up here and not in the body. So that's a really great tip too. Obviously, exercise, using the dehydrator. Yeah, I was gonna say,
using the dehydrator and making soups.
Yeah.
Soups are really nice. And you just want something thick and creamy. You can blend it for 2 minutes in your high-speed blender and it actually warms it up. And while you're getting the soup ready, a cool trick is to throw your bowl, set your bowl in your dehydrator and warm up your bowl while you make your soup. That way, when the soup's ready out of the blender, you grab your warm bowl and you pour your warm soup and you're holding something warm there too. And then, Lissa's not someone who really enjoys tea. I enjoy some tea from time to time. So even just some like warm ginger and lemon or lime water can be kind of nice to kind of warm you up as well.
And sometimes in Canada too, I've always wanted to be a tea person. I just don't drink it if I make it. But sometimes I would just warm up a cup of warm water and just sit with just the warm water, just holding it was really nice. But exercise is really important too. If you're not exercising, then that also can stimulate your metabolism and get the circulation going.
So now I'm seeing that both of ours are starting to kind of like pool up a little bit of moisture, because with the acidity in the tomatoes, it starts to pull out the moisture out of the zucchini. So I'm just going to take and just kind of drip a little bit over the trash here.
Ooh, this is going to be so good.
So good. I really want to like eat this right now, but this one has to go in the dehydrator.
Yeah, we're going to.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll put these here real quick, kind of show you what they look like. Lissa's completing hers over there. This one here is mine.
That's gorgeous. Quick question from Lynn. Is leaving veggies in hot water for 2 minutes considered raw? Or if you put them in boiling water, does that?
Anything under 115 degrees Fahrenheit is considered raw. So warm water is totally cool. Boiling is hotter. It's like 212. So I wouldn't use boiling, but we use warm water to thaw our frozen veggies and stuff.
Yeah, warm water, it's still raw. Really, like, it's interesting. It'd be so cool to have studies where they can actually see the enzymes and whatever it would be that is diminishing in the food, to where we'd know the exact temperature. But we know that steaming is going to be the most optimum way to kind of cook your vegetables, so to speak, because it's not sitting in water, it's not leaching out the minerals into the water. And it's a great way to heat up your vegetables and get them, like I said, I love to eat 2 carrots and like a whole crown of broccoli steamed with some pepper, maybe a little bit of crushed garlic on there, and some nutritional yeast sometimes. And it'd be hard for me to eat that much raw, 2 whole carrots and a whole entire crown of broccoli. So steaming it is great. But if you boil is another way to go. But of course the temperature is so much hotter, because boiling temperature is like 200 and I don't know, what is it? 200? Is it 220? I think maybe
212 is boiling.
Is it 212? Yeah.
There's the cucumber one.
Woohoo! Ooh, you got the cheese on the top. All right.
Did. I put a dollop of cheese on the top because why not?
I'm so
Look at that deliciousness.
So ready.
Woohoo!
We'll put this in the dehydrator.
Okay. Oh, let's share what's in the dehydrator. We made these last night.
Look at there.
So for those who know the wraps, these are the everything but the bagel wraps, but we added 2 teaspoons of blue spirulina to the wrap to make them blue. So we have blue wraps going on here.
So good. So good.
That's very cool.
Isn't that fun? Well, there it was, pesto. So what is it, 248? Like I said, if you're focused and you just want to get it done, and maybe you're not trying to have stuff, presentable necessarily, you're just making a nice quick dish for yourself, you could probably do this in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then obviously you can save the cheese sauce. You can add it to other salads or whatever. The marinara you can use for.
I'm going to get you guys in here so you can see her cut the piece here. And.
Okay. Are we ready?
I'm so ready. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Oh, that is a work of art.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Okay, there we go.
Oh man. Is it just explosive? Explosive flavors? Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I can't film you having another bite. I need to have a bite.
Yes, you need to have a bite.
Oh
man.
I'll go this side.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so fun. That's another thing that's really cool. Just raw food is just really fun. And the cleanup is quick and easy. And it just tastes great. It's very hydrating.
Peace, it's perfect.
Ah, it is so good.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. Jennifer says she only has green spirulina. Is there blue? I've seen it. They use it in Jamba Juice.
Mhm.
So here is the one that we use. It's from Terrasol Blue Spirulina powder. And it's really fine. It's a very fine powder. It gets everywhere, but it's like super, super, super blue. Completely natural from the sea. Terrasol. If anyone has us on Instagram, if you send either of us a link, we can send you a link to get these. Also, it's in the store.
Doesn't it come from some lakes too? Or that's the
blue-green one, yeah, which isn't the same.
It's so incredible. And you know, of course, like the way the blue wrap looks is just so much fun. It is so much fun. And you're getting those phycocyanins.
Antioxidants.
Antioxidants, good for, you know, keeping us healthy, fighting those free radicals that are constantly doing their thing.
Right?
Mm,
This is incredible.
yeah, so good. And we've got enough to make another one. And now we got extra zucchini because we also want to make another one, which we might not do on the show. I can start peeling at least. But and then, you know, like I said, pairing this up with a Greek salad, you know, if you do the Greek, it's
Like the date-based.
it's a very low fat dressing because
Yeah.
this is kind of a higher fat meal with the cheese and the pesto. But oh man.
But as you can see, we made 2 lasagnas and we still have plenty of cheese left. So it's not like you're using a ton,
You don't need a lot.
but it's just for the extra bonus flavor. Mhm.
Oh, so good. So good. I hope that you guys can get to make this. And Chef AJ, when we come and visit, we're going to have to put together a good list of stuff that we'll make so we can make some delicious goodies.
Oh, man, that's going to be amazing. I'm going to be going to Orange County this weekend for Memorial. I'm going to be eating at a vegan restaurant that I haven't eaten at in over a year. And it was originally a raw restaurant called Sun Cafe, and they make nachos. They're raw, and they use jicama as the chip.
Nice.
It's like the one high fat meal, like really high fat, because the sour cream is fat, the guacamole is fat. The cheese sauce doesn't have fat, actually. The chorizo is made out of sunflower seeds. So I'll be thinking of you guys Saturday night.
Mm,
Oh my God,
So
that
good.
sounds
that
amazing.
sounds incredible.
So, but the thing is, the restaurant's been sold. So my friend, who was the former owner, Chef Ron Russell, lives across the corner and goes, "I'll meet you there. Make sure you get what you need."
Nice.
Gina wants to know, is blue more healthy than green spirulina?
You know, I wouldn't say more healthy. I would say different healthy. Because everybody's always like, what's the best? What's the best? What's the best? But it's like, it's more about having more variety to get like a broader range of nutrition. So I wouldn't say either one is better than either or. I would just say it's beneficial to have some of both.
Yeah.
Because then you're getting bonus nutrition from another source. So
It's a different cyanin.
yeah, it's a different kind of cyanin. This is so good.
There's a question about frozen peas. Do you eat them? Can you eat them? Do you thaw them? Do you warm them? Do you
That's a
eat them on a
great-
boat? Do you eat them in a moat? No.
That's a great question. And we love shelled peas that are raw and frozen. And we keep them in the freezer and we just thaw them in some warm water. And they're so good.
Mm.
So that's one thing. And we've only been able to find this particular style at
They had them at Trader Joe's.
oh, they did.
They did.
Okay, that's a win for them.
Yeah. So yeah, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. We have seen them at Smith's.
Yes.
We did see them there once, but those are the only places that we've seen the shelled raw peas. And we just freeze them. Like as soon as we get home, we throw them in the freezer so they're not blanched or pasteurized. And then, so they're technically raw, because freezing is a raw food technique, but it's freezing without doing the whole like processing heat and everything.
Yeah, like flash pasteurizing them.
Mhm.
Yeah, but peas are great. And
High protein. Huh.
we'll be putting some peas in our dinner tomorrow. We're going to do a ramen tomorrow. We're going to do some mushrooms, some peas, some onions, bell peppers, and we're going to marinate broccoli. We're going to marinate all that up together real good and then dehydrate it for a little bit. And oh my gosh, I cannot wait for those peas. That's actually one of the peas and the mushrooms are one of my favorite part of that particular meal.
So good.
So good.
Marnise wants to know what temperature in the dehydrator and how long.
115 is the temperature we usually set ours at exclusively. We don't really change the temperature unless we're going out for many hours. Sometimes we'll lower it to like 90 or 100, but it's pretty rare. So 115, and for the lasagna specifically, you could just leave it in the dehydrator until it's the desired consistency that you like. We usually put it in for like 2, maybe 3 hours ish. And then, but it's really ready to eat right away because it's, yeah, we just like to warm it up in the dehydrator and condense the tomato sauce and everything gets like more intense.
So good.
Okay.
So that's that.
Great. So don't leave. Got a couple more questions.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, Gina wants to know, are frozen veggies that you buy in the store considered raw?
Another great question.
So it really depends on the company. Most vegetables that you buy frozen are pasteurized, but there are a few companies that I've heard recently. I think Wyman's, I'm not sure. They don't. But for the most part, companies flash pasteurize with heat to protect the consumer from potential bacteria like E. coli, salmonella, that kind of thing. So it's basically a safety procedure that companies need to go through to sell their products in mass scale in the grocery stores. But if you freeze it yourself, it's totally considered raw. So
yeah, exactly. And it is an amazing technique, freezing your vegetables, like say carrots. Carrots are pretty hardy.
And celery too.
Yeah, and celery. And when you freeze it and then thaw it, the texture is just so nice. It's almost like it's been steamed, lightly steamed.
Is a question from Robert. Do you guys take any supplements, and are supplements raw?
Another great question.
That's great. You guys have great questions. So supplements, unless it says raw on the bottle, it's not raw. There is like Garden of Life has raw supplements. It just means they're not heated. And we take on occasion B12 and vitamin D. We really don't take it daily.
It's not regularly, but we do strive to take B12 at least once a month. And it should be great to do something like that, like maybe every Sunday, good preventative.
But also we recommend people get their blood tested, because we don't need to take it every day because our blood tests show like higher than mid-range for B12. So I personally don't feel like I need to take it every day. If my blood tests show it getting lower, then I would start to take it more often. But I mean, I've been raw now over 9 years and my B12 is really high, and I don't supplement super often, but I do supplement once in a while with B12 and D. But we've got the sun. B12 and D are environmental vitamins. They're not because a vegan diet is lesser than. It's because we don't have access to wild soils and wild earth where we naturally would get B12, the bacteria that makes B12. And we're not out in the sun a lot. Like most of us live in cities, in houses, we work in offices, we spend a lot of our time driving in a car. Like we don't have that access to the sun. And plus, depending on where you live, if you're more north, you're making less vitamin D, even if you're in the sun. So it's really an environmental vitamin, and it's our modern life that's deficient, not necessarily the diet. So every single person needs to make sure that their vitamin levels are appropriate for them and to supplement according to what their blood tests show.
Another really good thing to supplement with too is to have like a half of a Brazil nut in your dressing, like blend it up in your dressing, or just grate it on top of we could actually, here, let's grab a Brazil nut and we'll grate it right on top of our lasagna, kind of like a little Parmesan. But that's a great source of selenium. And that is, they're in the pantry there. But Brazil nuts, we try to get at least one of those. I mean, realistically, to just hit our numbers, we should each be having a half of a Brazil nut each a day. But we don't really stick with, doing it every single day. But that's a great thing to add. And then, of course, iodine is really important too, or iodine, however you want to say it. And sea vegetables are a great source of iodine. Of course, you could get like a tincture, and you could have a tincture of some iodine. But yeah, so essentially, it's B12, vitamin D, K2, the vitamin K2.
Yeah, I was looking for the natto powder.
It's right up in this cupboard. Other one, little jar.
All right.
So K2, which is it's just a fermented soybean.
Well, yeah, so it's natto.
It's actually like, it's not a soybean though, is it? Is it a soybean?
Yeah, it's natto is fermented soy, and it's fermented with a different kind of bacteria than say miso or tempeh. And what happens in here is that the vitamin K is created by the bacteria. So bacteria actually create vitamin K2. And usually if we have the bacteria to do so in our colons, whenever we eat leafy greens or anything that has K1, which is pretty abundant in a raw diet, then those bacteria will convert it into K2. And that's how the animals that people eat have K2 in it, because the animals' bacteria produces the K2 for them. So natto is the highest source of vitamin K2. And we have this freeze-dried natto powder.
So good.
And the link for it is in the food section of my Amazon store. And we just add maybe a quarter teaspoon or whatever to our dressings. You can't really taste it at all. You can't taste
it. And natto is a very strong, distinguishable taste. And it's not something that I myself really enjoy. So having the dried version like that is really nice because, yeah, like she said, we can just add it into a dressing and you don't even really know it's there, but you're getting that good K2. So that's another one. So we've got, just to reiterate again, we've got B12, vitamin D, vitamin K2, selenium, really important. Brazil nut is a great way to get your selenium, and iodine.
Yeah, iodine from sea vegetables. That's a great whole food source to get.
So the only actual pill supplement essentially is the B12.
Pretty much, yeah. Because D you should be getting from the sun. If you're not, then you could take a pill.
Or you can get a spray.
Yeah, spray. So it's easier to absorb.
So Brazil nut, here, you want to, I'll get the camera in here so they can see. Let's see, I'll show you guys what this looks like here. It's really fun, really simple.
Yeah.
So just take a lemon zester and just grate your Brazil nut on top of your salad. Whoa. Oh my goodness, hold on. Jiminy Christmas. I think the noise of the grater was freaked him out. But yeah, look at that. Doesn't that look like some Parmesan cheese on there?
That's very cool. Hey, I see another question for you guys. And it is, what are the benefits of raw versus whole food plant-based, no sulfas, sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, trying to learn their thoughts. I'm curious. And I don't think you guys do flour, alcohol, sugar, oil anyway, and you do very little salt. So,
So on my YouTube channel and on Nate's YouTube channel as well, shortly, he should have it up. We have, over an hour-long presentations on the benefits of a raw food diet. So anyone is more than welcome to go watch those. We put them together as our final project for the school that we attended last year called Mastering Raw Food Nutrition with Drs. Rick and Karen Dina. Their website is rawfoodeducation.com. And it's a year-long program. You meet every Tuesday. You have quizzes, and it's a really, really, really thorough program. But when it comes to raw food, I would say my personal favorite benefits of it is that it's hydrating, easier to digest. It's less prep work. Depending on what you make, obviously, because you can cook really intensive meals and you can make really intensive raw meals. It really depends on what you choose to make.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say is just how it's being processed when it's cooking, when you're cooking it, because there's certain things that can happen depending on how it's being cooked. Like a lot of people fry stuff up with maybe some oil, but if you're not using oil, you're just using water in a pan and you're frying stuff up, like sauteing onions and garlic and that sort of thing, it actually like changes the structure of the molecule essentially. So that's where it's interesting. And some people really like to do like a grilling or broiling or baking, and these sorts of things bring the food to such a high temperature that it actually starts to create, I hate to say the word toxin, but it actually starts to create these toxic molecules in the food. So with raw food, you really have no chances of getting that kind of stuff in you, aside from what you're breathing in the air, outside, like a fire or something like that.
And it is true, in the scientific literature, they're actually called cooked food toxins. They're called
cooked food toxins, which sounds really,
I know, scary, but yeah, like for example, a really good one and really easy for most people to understand is frying or air frying, like anything above 248 degrees Fahrenheit starts to change the molecules of the food that we're eating. And especially things like you're baking at like 450 or whatever, that can create acrylamides and starches.
Yeah.
Or acrylamide.
Acrylamide.
Yeah.
And then you've got, it's just, these are the things that you don't want to have in your life, really. I mean, on the level that we are consuming, baked potato, you think of it, or even toast, even just making some toast, actually, there you're getting acrylamide just from the toast.
Yeah, it's the burnt, crispy part.
Yeah.
And it's like caramelized. There's the advanced glycation end products that happen at higher temperatures. So that's why steaming and boiling are the safest methods for cooking, because it's under that 248 degrees Fahrenheit.
What's really interesting is there's that new study that came out, which was really fascinating. It's called You Are What You Eat, and they take like 22 sets of twins, identical twins, and they put one on a very clean omnivorous diet, meaning they're eating a lot of plants, but they're eating animal products as well, and then one on a plant exclusive diet or a vegan diet. And it was really interesting to see the difference between these two identical twins in an 8-week period. And one of the things that really stands out is that the aging process is actually slowing down. We have these things called telomeres, and the telomere actually, depending on how short it is, you're aging faster. You're not going to live as long. And the longer your telomeres are, the slower you're going to age and the longer you're going to live. Now, some people don't want to live very long, right? So it doesn't really matter, but it's interesting to note that if you're striving for longevity and you want to slow down the aging process, raw food is definitely going to give you a leg up there. So that's one reason that really inspires me to stay raw, is like, hey, I am getting older and I want to be able to go do active things, and I want less inflammation. I want less of these toxins in my life. So what can I do? I can make stuff like this. It tastes amazing. And of course, it's not very calorically dense. So we're going to have to eat more. And I love to eat. So I'll eat a massive salad, a whole thing of lasagna. Heck, you could eat 2 of these lasagnas. And, depending on your layers, like you saw what was in it, it's, there is some fats in there. It's interesting because I imagine, for the individuals watching this show, they do know about fats and such, but to the average individual that is out in the world, this would seem extremely low fat and healthy. But, as someone who understands, fat intake, this is actually kind of a higher fat meal, this lasagna, because of the cashews, the pine nuts, and the hemp seeds that's involved. But
that's why you'd want to balance it out throughout the day with low fat options.
Yeah. So if you have, if you're having your low fat breakfasts, smoothies, or maybe you do like oats, overnight oats, or chia pudding and that kind of stuff. And then you have a big salad for lunch, and then dinner you have something with a little bit more higher fat along with a nice. So tonight we'll do a Greek salad to pair up with our others that we'll eat. But that's kind of one of the reasons that, one of the things that I think of between the difference of the two. So it depends on how you process your food, though.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
And also a lot of whole food plant-based diets have already a lot of raw in them.
They have a lot of raw in them, and a lot of it's really interesting how many plant-based meals there are and recipes there are that call for so much oil. Man, there's just like so much oil and everything. Like I love seeing people make stuff that's, there's no animal products involved. Like they're making potatoes, smashed potatoes and Brussels sprouts, but they're just dousing the oil on this. And, as we understand how the body processes oils, and these oils are high in omega-6, they're not very, they're more rigid. So that's going to help us age prematurely. It's going to, induce inflammation and these sorts of things. So as much as we can kind of exclude oils, that's why Lissa and I both, we don't use oil. There's like no need to have any oil in anything really. But it's so fascinating how someone could be eating a very clean, plant exclusive diet, but it could still be not as optimum because of the amount of oil or salt that is being used.
Exactly.
Thank you. And what do you do with your kale stems?
These are the zucchini and cucumber here, but the kale stems themselves, we have juiced them before, but a lot of times we just compost them.
Yeah, that's not really, I mean, you could, if you really wanted to use them, my personal favorite way, if I was to do it, I've never done this before, but I would chop it into little pieces and I'd freeze it to add to a raw soup later or something like that.
They're really fibrous.
Yeah, they're pretty fibrous. So
one thing you could do is you could steam them.
Right. You could totally if you wanted to.
A light steam.
Well, Joyce says, does air frying create toxins? Dr. Greger sent me an article saying only if you air fry sardines.
Really? Interesting. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, because we were, I mean, from what we've learned is anything like, the really, really high temperatures are interacting, but if he's got the research.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll write myself a note and I'll search for that article and I will send.
Please do.
It'd be cool to know. Yeah. I mean, you think air frying, like I know Instapot is, it's under pressure, and it's kind of a, it's like a combination between like a slow cooker and a pressure cooker. So that's a really good way to like cook up stuff. We don't have an air fryer, and I know it's interesting because there's so much to research. That's something to research though.
Definitely.
Like, and how are you air frying, what it is you're air frying? Are you air frying, say, if you're air frying cauliflower, let's say, is there oil on there or butter on there, like a vegan butter or something? And then of course, it's interesting. I don't know, like that's something that we got to dig into.
Very interesting.
Wow. Well, guys, this was a beautiful dinner.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having us on again. We love it. And we look forward to it every month.
I wish you could taste soon.
So do I. Well, you guys are the best, and I can't wait till I see you. Actually, I haven't met you in person. I feel like I have, but I can't wait to see you.
This year.
Soon, May.
That's right.
Oh my God. I'll just pay you to cook for me or uncooked for me.
We'll make you lots of wraps and tacos, all kinds of good stuff.
Oh man, I haven't made your particular recipe, but it sounds amazing with a cooked sweet potato in the wrap. Oh
my God, it's so good. I mean, anything in a wrap is good. Well, you guys are, everybody watching that has your wrap book says they're the best. And I told you they're making them at True North now.
They're amazing. That is
so cool.
That's like the biggest honor and the biggest shout out.
It's a compliment. Yeah.
Huge compliment.
Hey, well, I'm only 2 hours away. When you visit, go down there and and show them how it's done.
Yeah,
right.
That would be fun.
That'd be so
cool.
All right. Well, these were great. These 12 episodes. You guys should watch all, and we should actually bundle it all together.
That's a good idea.
Bundle it together.
Bundle it up.
Why not? I'm sending you the file each month. Well, thanks, guys. It was a wonderful presentation. It looks absolutely delicious. Enjoy your dinner, lunch, whatever you want to call it, meal.
Thank you. We will.
Bye, guys. Love y'all.
Sweethearts. Thanks, and we love you too for watching. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time for a brand new show with a brand new regular guest. He is a world famous electrocardiophysiologist, cardiologist, plant-based, of course, from Houston, Texas, Dr. Baxter Montgomery. And tomorrow he's going to talk about the power of integrative medicine and how you can heal your heart, your kidneys, and your liver. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
That's cool.